Kadosh Boker Or Bekiim Bahalacha 2, day 51, page 169. Halacha Yud Bet. Okay, the container and the water. Okay, so he comes and he says like this: ideally, all the rules that apply for Netilat Yadayim before eating bread should be observed for Netilat Yadayim in the morning as well. That is, that the water should be poured from a container by a person. The container should be free of holes and cracks. The water itself must be fresh and unused, and it must have the normal appearance of water. See Halachot edition Siuman 160 for these Halachot. According to some poskim, these details are not essential for the morning Netilat Yadayim, and one could fulfill the mitzvah even without a container or with water that was be unfit for Netilat Yadayim for eating bread. Nevertheless, in these cases, one must not recite the bracha al Netilat Yadayim because of sefek berachot leakel. Fine. Let's see. 162. Huh? No. 162. The Rama ruled that the mitzvah of the morning Netilat Yadayim can be fulfilled without having a person pour the water on one's hands, and even if the water is not poured from a container. According to this, one may perform Netilat Yadayim by holding one's hands under the running faucet. Rav Yaakov Emden, however, right, he warned that one must recite the blessing of performing the mitzvah. That means basically he does not say the bracha. He asserted that one may say the bracha only if one performed the mitzvah in the manner that would be acceptable in preparation for eating bread. Meaning, just like you eat bread, you do Netilat Yadayim. That's the only way that you're able to do Netilat Yadayim in such a fashion with the bracha. It might be that Rav Yaakov Emden compared this halacha to the halacha stated by Maran in the Shulchan Aruch. Any water, even if it's going to be disqualified from the use of Netilat Yadayim and preparation of eating bread, is nevertheless good enough for washing hands in preparation for prayers. There are those who rule that one may not recite the blessing for washing hands with such water, however. So therefore, that's what we're going by. The Pri Tzaddik and the Mamar Mordechai explain that according to the second opinion cited by Maran, no blessing is cited at all. The Levush and the Magen Avraham, however, explain that this means that one cannot say the bracha al Netilat Yadayim, but it's still possible to say the bracha al Nekiyut Yadayim. The Kavachayim Sofer ruled that according to the first stringent opinion, based on the principle of Sofer Berachol Akel, and therefore you don't do it. We can assume that the same applies to someone who does Netilat Yadayim without pouring the water from a container, or without a person, right, pouring the water on the hands, right? That means basically, again, the same thing. Meaning there's a machloket. Is it that you don't make a bracha at all, or do you say the bracha aval nekiyut yadayim instead of netilat yadayim? He's saying, obviously, we're going that you don't do a bracha at all. Okay? However, this seems to be contradicted by Maran himself. Why? Because he wrote, it is commendable to take care to perform netilat yadayim in the morning with all the stringencies of netilat yadayim for eating bread. Apparently, Maran's opinion is that it's only recommended to do that. But if someone didn't do that, it's mashma, he could still do a bracha. So he says, it must be that if someone uses disqualified water, it is worse than performing the mitzvah without a proper container. And in that case, he may not say the bracha. As long as he uses the right type of water, however, then even if he performs the mitzvah without a person pouring the water, and without it being poured from a container, he still could say the bracha. In the Bet Yosef, Maram pointed out that the Rosh, the Ran, and the Mordechai all ruled that it is not necessary to pour the water from a container for the Netilat Yadayim and Shachrit. And the Rashba, Rabbi, the Rama ruled that you do. So the Rishon LeZion wrote that even Maran ruled according to the Rosh regarding this. We must take the opinion of Rav Yaakov Emden into account. This is because the Aruch HaShulchan wrote that Maran's leniency seems untenable in the face of the Rambam, who ruled that the mitzvah in the morning Netilat Yadayim is exactly equal to Netilat Yadayim for preparation of bread. And this concurs with the Rashba, adding weight against those who ruled against it, that you don't need that. So basically, since you have the Rashba and the Rambam, so therefore, in such a case, obviously you have to take that into account, and you will not make a bracha at all. Ruach Chaim Falache, he comes and he says, right, likewise rule that if someone performed Netilat Yadayim without pouring water from a container onto his hands, he may not say the bracha. Although Maran said that you could, right? Because of the bracha lakel. Maran's ruling, right? He says, Maran the Rishon LeZion expressed great surprise at finding the Or LeZion rule that one may say the bracha even though one performed the mitzvah without pouring the water from a container. Right? He was surprised at that. You know, how could Rav Ben Zion say that you do it? It's obvious from the discussion of Maran that he's shown LeZion that the same reservation applies if someone performs the mitzvah Netilat Yadayim with water that is disqualified for Netilat Yadayim for the bread, he may not say the bracha. After all, he maintained this is more of a serious problem than they have pouring without a container. And this is likewise the ruling of the Yalkut Yosef and Halacha Brura as well. Yeah, no bracha. Okay? Yeah, but on the bottom still. Repeating the mitzvah in the proper manner. What happens if you did it wrong? Can I do the mitzvah right? So if someone performed the mitzvah of the morning Netilat Yadayim without using a container, or using disqualified water, can he repeat the mitzvah later in a proper manner and then say the bracha of Netilat Yadayim? Because if you're going to tell me that you weren't able to do the bracha, maybe you didn't do it properly according to some shitot, okay, so I'll do it now and I'll do it with the bracha. So he says, logic dictates that since he fulfilled the mitzvah according to some opinions, and that he should even the scheme, so you can make a bracha later on. Nevertheless, if he did perform the second Netilat Yadayim immediately after the first one, first sure he could do the bracha. The blessing he recites now would count for either his first Netilat Yadayim according to some opinions, or the second one according to other opinions. As explained above, it is possible to recite the blessings for the morning Netilat Yadayim even after drying one's hands, and even if he's changed the locations. This is the ruling of the Halacha Brura. If a considerable time has passed, though, since the first one and second one, then you can't make the bracha anymore. Okay, Halacha number 13 on the top. Under a running faucet, if someone has no container available for the Netilat Yadayim, he may perform the mitzvah by placing his hands under a running faucet 3 times alternately. In such a case, he must not say the bracha of al Netilat Yadayim. Again, 163, this is the ruling of Yakud Yosef based on the response of Yabia Omer in the previous footnote. The reason for rinsing hands alternately when not right, even when not pouring from a container, is because this is the way that we get rid of the bad, spirits. The Lechabra asserted, however, that it's not possible to dispel harmful forces unless one pours water over the hands from a container. It is unclear, according to this, if it is necessary when rinsing the hands and the running to rinse them alternately, because basically if it doesn't do anything, so what's the purpose? But again, obviously you don't make a bracha. Okay? What about dipping the hands in a bowl? So he says like this. It's not possible to dispel the harmful forces from one's hands by dipping them in a bowl of water, even if one repeated it several times. I mean, you in, out, in, out, in, out. It does not help whatsoever. No, Gamla. Once the hands are dipped into the water, no, chas v'shalom. There's a big difference between a nar and a bowl. Right? So he says, once the hands are dipped into the water, right? So he says there's many differences actually between a nahar and everything else. Of course. Nar is there's a machlok with it's al Netilat Yadayim, al Tvilat Yadayim. There's many differences, 1 time, 3 times. Here you're putting it some in a bowl. A bowl doesn't help. Nevertheless, the water can still be used later on to cleanse the person's hands in preparation for setting Shema to pray, right? At least according to the Talmud and Poskim. According to the Zohar, however, the water is disqualified for these purposes as well. The Kabbalists rule that it is forbidden to recite any blessings after touching such contaminated water, and therefore for sure it's prohibited to pray after, meaning once this water became tameh because it didn't take off the tumah, and basically you contaminated it. There's nothing there. So that's it. So there's nothing what you're going to gain. Therefore, if someone has no way to perform the mitzvah of the morning Netilat Yadayim other than dipping his hands in a bowl of water, he should do so, right? But he says he may then recite blessings in Shema and he may pray, but he cannot say the bracha of Netilat Yadayim. Why? Because safek brachot leakel. 164, obtained water in a container afterward. He says, if someone performed Netilat Yadayim by dipping his hands in a bowl of water, he should repeat the mitzvah in a proper manner. When he obtains a container of fresh water, he may not say the bracha this time because that's it. However, unless it's a very, very short time, then we said yes. See above in the footnote of Halacha 12, and this concurs with the ruling of the Halacha Brura. What about dipping the hands into 3 bowls of water? Because when you put it in 1 time, fine, but now you did it with 3 different times. So he says that the Shulchan Aruch writes that he's unsure whether or not it's permissible, right? It's possible to fill the mitzvah of Netilat Yadayim. Someone has 3 bowls of water and he dipped his hands together in each of them. Halacha Brura commented that according to the Zohar Kadosh and Kubalim, it's not possible to dispel the harmful forces, right, in such a manner. One must pour water onto them from a container, not dip his hands into them. According to the Poskim, however, dipping into water can also dispel the harmful forces. Therefore, if someone has no other choice, he may do it in such a fashion, right? And then he could say Shema and pray, but again, he cannot say the bracha of Netilat Yadayim. And if afterwards he has the opportunity to do a mitzvah, he should do it in the proper way, but he doesn't make the bracha unless it's a very, very short time, right, between the first one and the second one.